everyone, this podcast series is in partnership with Tiger Eye Group.
Tiger Eye offers equity, diversity, and inclusion workshops, business development, indigenous training, and they are hosting a meaningful event in May 13 and 14 at Metro Hub Kelowna, titled Cultivating Authentic Leadership Conference. We have the pleasure to have a conversation with all their speakers before the event. You don't want to miss it. Thank you very much for watching.
20 diverse speakers on May 13th and 14th here in Kelowna, BC, being held at the Metro Hub, 1265 Ellis Street. Join us for Cultivating Authentic Leadership, where we're going to have conversations that matter.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us on a new episode of Valiente Entrepreneur Podcast. In this episode is with me a very special friend and a great human being. Here with us, Mauricio Rojas. How are you, Mauricio?
Hi, Juan. So nice to be here with you guys. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm so happy of seeing the fruit of your hard work and the quality of the things that you're doing. So thank you very much for having me.
Oh, thank you. And you have been important and a keyboard point in our development of Valiente and all the divisions that we have. And yeah, we are so excited to be part of this new project, new adventure. Mm-hmm. So yeah, tell us a little bit about Interwoven and how you become a co-founder, what is it about, and yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's a long story, but I'm going to try to, summarize it. I tend to speak a lot. So.
No, it's great. Yeah, podcasts are to share meaningful conversations. So yeah.
I don't know if it's meaningful. It's a lot, right?
Please feel welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. So it all started in 1973 that's it. So Interwoven is such an important part of me and my wife. So it's a project that we started here, both of us. It's kind of our life project or baby, and basically it came to be because when we met some years ago, we started to get involved with this group of people who were, experts in personal development and tools for meditation and contemplative tools and these kinds of tools to reflect in your own states of mind and understandings of reality, the world, relationships. So those tools were so important for us and for everybody within that group, right? So from there, from this group, that it was all around Mexico, not just in the place.
Was that group in Mexico?
Yeah, that's back when we were living in Mexico. We were living there. We met there, and we got married, and we were there about 10 years before coming here to Canada.
Where in Mexico?
In Playa del Carmen.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah. I just went there, so that's...
that's great. Yeah, lucky you.
Oh, yes. Beautiful place. And actually, there's a project that we have around that, but I'll tell you about it a little bit
perfect,
later.
Yeah.
So, around that time, when we were involved with this group that was not just in Playa, but basically like the main group was in Mexico City and in Guadalajara, Monterrey, the bigger cities, but all over the country, right? So they were, everybody was doing like these efforts to bring those tools into settings that they were going to have an impact, right? Okay. Like in the prison, in jails and in the correctional facilities system, or in schools, or with the first responders or hospitals, right? But it was kind of an isolated efforts from each group. So it was, these very fortunate circumstances that one of the one of the people one of the persons that was involved in that group in Mexico City was also working at a really high level in the Ministry of Finance in Mexico, and they were in deep problems because they had really high levels of stress, burnout, right? So we had a curricula already kind of developing, like we were trying to make an effort to make a secularized program that was very well aligned with current science and that we could evaluate with with the highest quality. But that need from that person allowed this effort to consolidate, and that's how we started. You know, how the organization in Mexico started. It's called Atentamente Consultores, and I think that as of today is the most important organization in Latin America doing social and emotional competencies training, right? We have had two of the largest projects in the world evaluated with the highest quality in the education system, now in the healthcare system in Mexico, in like 5 states. The education, it's called Educate for Wellbeing. That one, we are doing this thing that has never been done before of designing a way to iterate so it adapts to every different reality in Latin America. Mm-hmm. We are working with that project with scholars all over from Latin America. So it has grown, the organization down in Mexico, right? So when we were involved from the beginning and doing things with the organization. So when we moved here, we moved with the idea of bringing those tools here because of 2 things. One is because this is the place that we were going to live now. And the second is because by starting doing this in English, right, we have access to the whole world, right? So that's the idea, that the efforts that we do here allow for the organization that has been so important for us to just consolidate here and grow here. It's challenging because in Mexico, from the beginning, we were a big group, like, I don't know, maybe 80 people from the time it started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because we share the other, we come from this group, right?
Yes.
So when it's a big organization, so we were able to do many things and to take on big projects from the beginning, and we also had the contacts down there, right? So the challenging part here is just my wife and I, right? And that as immigrant, because you have this same experience.
Yes.
One of the things we have to do is understand the reality here and start making connection, understand culture, the reality here, and making those connections. So having said that, what we also see is a big space in places that it's not possible in Mexico to do it, that they don't have that big of a potential, right? Mm-hmm. For example, in the workplace here, right? Workplace culture is different, and there is a lot of space now here to work on well-being and a culture that allows the well-being and flourishing. That's a pressure in the labor market because of how short it is, but also because young generations, they want to align with organizations that have that in mind, and also that they can align their purpose with those organizations, right? And that's one of the pillars of our training, purpose, right? So we see a big space in organizations to do this kind of training, and the advantage is that the advantage and disadvantage, I think, is that there's a lot of offer down there, but not even close to the quality that we offer, right? So the advantage is that there's already a conversation and the disadvantage is that because of the variation in quality, sometimes people have tried things and the results have not been what they expected. And we are kind of inserting ourselves in a conversation there, right? So that's one, and also just having more references here so they can talk about our work, because that's how we grew in Mexico. So basically through relationships, right? So that's where we are at. But yeah, the idea is to start with the workplace here. So we will offer, or we are offering, a training in these skills, social emotional competencies for workplace culture. And the idea is to create groups and cultures where people can actually flourish and can grow this sense of belonging and of connectedness. And from that strength, a lot of things happen that have huge benefits for organizations and businesses, right? We could share at some moment the return on investment on programs that work, like us, and it's huge, right? Super interesting, all the research that's being done there. So that's where we want to start, but we are also, we also want to work in another space that it's not that clear in Mexico, but here it is, with sports teams, right? With teenager, youth, and also adults. And that is a very interesting space, because going through the education system, it's a long way here, but in that way, we can kind of get to the same people that we would in the education system, but through a thing that it's very ingrained in the culture here, that it's like, oh, the hockey team for, the teenagers. So that way we could offer our programs, and because of one of the results is the teams that they create stronger bonds.
Oh yes,
it has a
Sense
result
of
in
belonging,
performance,
yeah.
as a sports team.
For
So
sure.
so we want to do that. We are also we want to do that as well with first responders. And there's two things that we are thinking of to start offering, and this is something that we may talk about sometime in the near future, you and I.
Oh, perfect.
But is to offer something open to the public. So offer this masterclass open to the public, so promote it, bring people in, record it, and then have it there, and then do iterations of that. We were not thinking of that at the beginning, but now I think it's a good idea. You want to offer it to the public. Another idea we had is to offer this for immigrants and to create connections within immigrants and the local community. There's an epidemic of loneliness in North America, and the General Surgeon of the United States is really concerned about the impact that's having, loneliness and hopelessness in health, in society, and in divisiveness that is happening. So we want to create also these workshops aimed to immigrants and local community, to bring them together. And the last one, and this is the other, I think I told you I talked about it.
No, it's great. It's great. I'm learning a lot.
Oh, thank you, Juan. I'm sorry. I talked about it. So this is the last one. Yeah, and the last one is that now that we were down in Mexico, we haven't been in vacation mode, like 100% vacation mode, since we arrived here, right? Because we were there a couple of times, but it was between work and vacation, right? So we went back to Playa, to the region that we used to be, Playa and Mérida, that's in the Yucatan Peninsula, right? And some years ago, we had this beautiful opportunity. My wife also, she's an expert on evaluating social impact projects with a very interesting methodology called social return on investment that aims to give voice to the people who are actually receiving the services, right? Sometimes there's a big disconnection between the founders, people with really well intentions who want to try to help solve a problem, and the people who are actually experiencing the problem. It's a very paternalistic view sometimes, and that has created a lot of problems with how money is distributed and the kind of things that the actions that happen in the field. So the idea with social return investment is to give power and voice to people who don't have. Super interesting methodology. So we were doing an evaluation based on that methodology of a project that was aiming to create this like a destination brand. Kind of Cancun is a destination brand. Riviera Maya, a destination brand. So they were trying to create a destination brand called Mayacan back then. But the idea with that destination brand was to bring only cooperatives, co-ops owned by Mayan First Nations or local people to do eco or cultural tourism. Beautiful idea. The execution had some things, but the idea was really beautiful. So we were doing that for some time, evaluating that project. So we created all these connections and learned so much about the richness of the culture in the peninsula that many people don't know, because you only go to Cancun, right?
Yes.
So now that we were back there, we had the chance to reconnect with some of that experience and some of the people there. And we were also cooking this idea, but now it's a little bit more concrete, and hopefully next year it sees the light of day. And the idea is to create, to also offer our curricula, or for social and emotional competencies, and for workplace culture or group culture, and based on well-being. So offer our curricula down there, but surrounded with experiences that embrace that and also allow you to have to know more, to be in a beautiful place that has so much to offer, just the experience of being there as a person, right? It's a healing experience to be connected with the land there and with the culture and the food, and the organic food. And it's super interesting. So the idea is to offer a whole experience and offer it so groups can come and do strategic sessions.
That's awesome.
For example, so have a week for strategic
like a seminar.
Yeah,
like
if you want
workshop.
to, if you're a business and you want to do, or an organization or a group of people, and you want to have a strategic session or a year-end convention, or
Yes, totally.
so go there, great. have that component. We can also provide some of that, like for the strategic sessions and all that. Also, we have friends here who can help with that. So provide that component also, but surrounded by what we do. That would allow a group to actually connect deeper, and also added to that, not just what we do, but surrounded by everything that the region has to offer around well-being, and for you to put you in a different place. Right?
Yeah.
So
a different perspective, environment, and start making different connections.
Yeah. So that's the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just refining it, but yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for giving us a whole vision of what Interwoven and you with Amanda are doing. As I mentioned in previous conversation with you, is that I'm super passionate and fascinated with what you are, the problems and the topics that you are solving with your company. You were talking about well-being and the difference between probably living in Mexico and the services that you are offering now here in Canada, especially in Kelowna. And yeah, it makes me think about some situations that I also been evaluating and thinking about. Like, I'm not an expert, but like my point of view recently, because I have 5 years living here in Canada, and I have experienced different situations that makes me think about the real difference in the economic system between Mexico and Canada, and how that affect our well-being as a human, like in Mexico and here in Canada. Both countries, I think, that have their own specific challenges, but us as immigrants, and especially you with a company here in Canada that is uh, offering a service in the wellness and mindfulness and emotional intelligence areas, I feel like you have a lot of perspective to bring to the companies here in Canada, right? Because you share different words. And my question or my thought to share with you is that, would you think the cost of living, that I feel like in Canada we have a higher cost of living compared to Mexico, but obviously the services are different. The streets, the building, the housing, all that is different. But right now that I become an entrepreneur, and that I have my family and trying to grow the business, but also have a sustainable life, it makes me reevaluate the cost of living that we have right now in Canada, and the demanding that the current system is, and how this affect to our well-being. Before our podcast, you start asking me, "Oh, are you sleeping enough?" And that's kind of the topics that you are trying to solve, or that you are serving to other companies. And I really believe that it's necessary that people are aware that we need to take care of ourselves, and how this lack of responsibility on our self can affect the environment, the co-workers, our families. And yeah, no, I'm really interested and passionate about what you are doing. And what's your opinion about these things? Like, do you think the cost of living affects directly of how people here in Canada react, and the vision that they have of the work culture?
Yeah, I think there's many things there, you know, and there's many like the thing is well-being. Every concept that we have is a construction, right? We understand the world by making up stuff. So we construct concepts, and we just agree on what that is, right? So well-being is an interesting construct. It's an interesting concept that has a lot of ways to see it and understand it, right? We, like, everything we do is based on the premise that as living beings, everything we do, every little action, you know, you working so hard for your business, or you sometimes saying, "Oh, now I need a nap," or you making this question, or you moving your hand and scratching, or singing in certain. Everything is because we are in a state, and suddenly we want something to feel better, right? Everything, every little action, or every big action, and every huge decision. So we are constantly aiming towards well-being. We start from there with what we do, but I think every human endeavor actually is trying to go to the same place. You know, you
Yes,
buy a
that's
house,
so true.
because you're trying to, you know, you're after that well-being. Now, there are some like, but you have to ask yourself like where that comes from. Is that if is that sensation of relief or satisfaction comes from what just happened, what I just achieved, or from my interpretation of what just happened, right? And what we say is that it comes from your interpretation, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So there's and life is ambiguous, and things that we don't want to happen are going to happen, and things that we want to happen never going to happen, because that's life. And if we think that in order to be well, only what we want to happen needs to happen, we are in a conundrum, to say it lightly, right? Because we're going to get sick, we're going to die. People who love, like a business may or may not work. You can make the best of it, but COVID happens, and you started a restaurant a month ago. Well, that's the world, right? So, but there's some. If you think on, for example, disease, like someone who has cancer. Someone who has cancer has two options. Once you know you're a cancer, you're about to die. Either you take it really badly and it destroys you emotionally, or I'm guessing you may know people like this that know about those things, and it's not like, oh yeah, it's fun. Not at all. It's painful, it's hard, and it's sad, but they take it without losing the center. And some of these people, even that allows them to reevaluate things and see the beauty of life and of life ending and starting, and so even the hardest circumstances can be taken in a different lens, and that's in everybody's field. Like that's in our field as individuals. It starts from there, but once we start there, another very big component is relationships. So once we start that, we are in a place that allows us to connect in a different way with the rest of human beings and the people. And that's where actual well-being comes from a thing that starts within and then translate towards other people. Now, having said all of that, sorry for it, I love the word.
No, it's perfect.
So having said that, there are external conditions that are harder to manage, right?
Yes.
We have the potential as humans to deal with the hardest conditions and not losing center. But we have to train ourselves into that. And there are some really hard conditions that are not easy to manage and that are going to affect our well-being. If you don't have enough food, if you don't have a house, if you're living surrounded of extreme violence or scarcity, it's going to be really hard to have the space to reflect in order to grow this well-being from the inside out. That's the reality of most of our country down in Mexico, right? We have, I think, a very positive thing that works towards our well-being, that is in personal relationships, in close relationships, we're very warm. And so friendships, family, those are strong, warm, close circles. Here in North America in general, it's a little bit the opposite. So the close circles are very individualistic. So it's a very individualistic culture. It also has the advantage that here the community side, right? People are very much involved in the community. And that helps towards well-being, towards the systems working better than the mess that we have back home, right? So it's kind of the opposite, right? So the external works really well, but the close and internal, there's all these spaces. And I think this hustle culture of working really hard, like it's part of that, of the individualistic thingy. I don't think it's so much to do with cost of living, because it's really expensive, but you make more money easier.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can do, if you have a job here, it's not like you're gonna die of, like you can, it's easier to get a job. There's problems and folks who are struggling, and but it's easier to get a job. Even the most basic job with this economy, if you don't have children, would allow you to, as an individual, just go by. That doesn't happen in Mexico.
Yeah, that's
If you work as a cashier in a, good luck, right? So that disparity doesn't happen down there. So that basic, very basic level of well-being helps here, right? I think the problem here is that that in general, people are not in survival mode. Down there, back home, we are a lot in that survival mode, right? Because there's not enough, and so we are still thinking in Mexico that the more we have is when we're going to be better, right? And we're striving to that.
Yes.
Here is like, like we don't have to, like if I get really sick, I don't have to worry, because the system is slow, whatever, but it's good quality, So there's this net that allows for material wealth and material well-being here. I think the problem is precisely that. Once you exhausted that, once you don't have to worry about survival, then what? Oops. Oh, I think that, I have everything I want, and I still feel like disconnected, alone. But now if the AC is not cooling enough, that's a big problem, right? So now little things become bigger, and the same sense of dissatisfaction is there, even though I have all these things that supposedly satisfactory. So I think that's part of the problem here. And you can point to, the cost of living, but it's basically that dissatisfaction that it's ingrained there.
Totally.
Yeah. So I think it's a little bit of that, and also the world is changing, right? Like culture is changing, the world is changing. The economy is changing. Like it's for younger people, getting a house is harder. So there's a lot of ambiguity happen after maybe 30 years of a very stable world and a myth of progress, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty, and when there's uncertainty, there's fear, and when there's fear, there's anger, and then that creates a space for division and pointing fingers and separateness, right? Because we think something out there is what's causing, or this sensation of uneasiness, and instead of solving it, like working from the inside out with that. So I think that's where we should start, and also and from there trying to fix the systems, right?
Yes.
Not the other way around, because we need better systems. Things should work better, and we need to work for that, but not doing that in order for us to feel well, but because we feel well and we feel whole and centered, we have the space to work for that without alienating other people, or without pointing fingers, or because we need a space to come together. And if we do it from a place of fear, anger, and pain, it's going to be really hard. We need to learn to hold that pain, and because cost of living, poverty, these circumstances are going to be there. Like that problems are going to be there, right? It's how we deal with those things and from which space we're trying to contribute to the solution of those things, right? Yeah.
100%. I love everything that you are sharing with us, and I'm more excited to join the event that is coming in May, because what you are talking and sharing with us is just like a bit of the conversation that you guys are gonna bring to the table in your panel. So this series of podcasts are a special series of podcasts where we are inviting some of the speakers that are gonna be attending on cultivating authentic leadership event happening in May. So I'm just gonna change the image here in our screen. I want to talk a little bit about the highlights of this event that Denise Young is putting together, like 20 speakers that are coming all over Canada, and you are from Mexico, but you are living here in Kelowna, but with different perspective to talk about these things that you are sharing us with us today. And wow, I really resonate what you are telling right now. That first start with us, with our well-being. Then, if we are taking care of our mind, our inside thoughts, we can approach our problems or our challenges with a better perspective, with a more clear mind, instead of pointing fingers. Uh, I really would like to be able to achieve that. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's definitely difficult, and I feel that's why it is important to have these events,
Yep.
to have companies like the one that you have, because I'm sure that even for you could be difficult sometimes. I'm sure that by ourselves and without sharing these conversations, this awareness can be uh, dissolving or disappearing. So it is our goal at Valiente to be giving this platform for this event, for your companies, for so yeah, I know that you're gonna be sharing some conversations with Shane Lab. He was in our previous podcast. And who is the other speaker that is gonna be in your panel?
Barry Harris.
Barry Harris.
Yes.
Barry Harris. We're trying to contact her. She
Yeah.
probably will come
Oh,
here
she's
to
amazing.
this podcast. Yeah,
Shane
we're
as well, yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
But share us a little bit about the event.
Yeah.
How Denise Young came to you and invited you.
Yeah.
And what can people can expect on this wonderful event?
Yeah, well, it's a really beautiful event, I think, and aligns perfectly with our view, because, as you said, like, we think that, yeah, well-being starts from the inside out, but it's not an individual thing. That's super important to say. It's not, and I think that's part of the problem that has happened, is that we see it as an individual thing and an individual just responsibility, and it's not. It's a collective thing, but starts from the inside out. But the inside out, we extend ourselves towards other all the time, right? So this interaction with other people is part of the inside as well, right? So the idea that we see is our slogan in Spanish for Atentamente is, if I change, we change together, everything changes, right?
Yes.
No, it's not that if I change, that's it, we solve the things. No, if I change, we change together. Because, as you said, it's hard because you need a community of like-minded individuals working from the same space, right? And that's how we change together. And that's how our collective action brings change into the world. That's why the conference is so important, because you have a bunch of like-minded individuals working in these things of authentic leadership that has to do with these profound things of how we hold the space to have conversations that are hard, to connect with people that are very different with us, to validate and value our differences, and to empower ourselves together without excluding anybody. And I mean anybody, because there's sometimes this tendency of oh, now it's our time and you had no. We have to bring everybody into the table, and to allow that connection to happen in order to break with divisiveness, right? So that's why not just the conference, but the take that Denise is bringing is so important. And I met her at the Okanagan Collab, and just want to mention that because that was being at the Okanagan Collab, this project of Shane Austin, is an amazing pillar in our community. Being there allowed me to connect with these wonderful people, with Denise, with Barry and Shane, and with a lot of people who's going to be there from here to Kelowna. That space allowed that to happen. So I had a bunch of conversations with Denise, because the work she does is fantastic, and is again in this space of commonality and bringing people together and understanding, where everybody's coming from. So we had a bunch of conversations, and from there she started talking about organizing this event. And I was, in from the beginning. And at some moment she said, "Hey, you want to do something?" I go, "Whatever you need me to do, of course. I'm super happy to be there." So it's going to be an amazing event.
What is the topic or the conversation that you're gonna have?
It's called Authentic Leadership in Action. And it's going to be super interesting, because it has to do a lot of, we need to create spaces where, like, I don't want to say this word, because, the bad thing is that some words now have a cultural weight in these culture wars, right? But we need to create safe space, psychologically safe spaces. And how do we do that? And what we share is we do that not by sanitizing everything, but by being able to hold the pain of the difference and of trying to understand where the other person comes from, and build from that. So this space of being able to hold discomfort.
For me, like even with Valiente, the values that we share, that we are aiming at our company, I want to learn more. Like I want to be in that position where I can have a safe environment, where I can be a good leader, where I can know how to manage my emotions when I'm under stress, when I'm facing challenges. And what it is important for me to explain and communicate to all the people that is watching us right now is that these 20 speakers are coming with a lot of experience, with a lot of knowledge about these topics, and it's super valuable to listen from you guys, from to learn from you, to understand what these conversations can impact the community. You are mentioning collab, you are mentioning Shane Lab, yourself, Valiente. I already shared this with Shane Lab, but Valiente came from listening to your conversation, to listening or to attending to the collab networking events, because that resonate with me at that time, and that's why I wanted to create a media production company with a meaningful impact on the community. So I totally believe on the event that Denise Young is putting together, cultivating authentic leadership, on May 13 and 14 next month, and it's gonna be at Metro Hub. So if you are interested on the conversation that we are having, or that I'm having with Mauricio, click on the website on Tiger Eye. Tickets are selling on Eventbrite. Send us a DM and we can share all the details with you, because this is a unique event. These 20 speakers are going to be sharing conversation that is difficult to find these days, but are the conversations that needs to happen right now. Thank you very much, Mauricio. It is a pleasure to have you in this podcast.
Thank you.
And an honor to have a conversation with you as usual.
It's
Thank you very
always
much.
nice to see you.
And thank you everyone. See
Thank
you next time.
Bye.